In 2022, I originally had a series titled Movie Catch-Up where I talked about the movies that I watched from that year. Yeah, well, those videos were stupid, so I'm doing something different for this year. Here's my list of favorite movies from 2023. If one of your favorite movies from 2023 isn't on this list, it's either because I didn't watch it or I didn't like it enough to include it. Which is why you should follow me on Letterboxd, shameless plug. Anyways, here's the list. At number 15, I have Beau is Afraid. I talked about this movie already in my movie catch-up episode 6, but I'll talk about it some more here. This movie is just insane. It's a very surreal experience with fantastic acting, disturbing horror, colorful cinematography, and impressive visual effects. It has a great sense of humor as well, and I also like how the movie is split up into 4 distinct acts. Also, when I was watching this film in theaters, 2 people got up at the 2-hour mark, went into the hallway of the theater so nobody could see them, and had sex throughout the rest of the film. So that was interesting. So yeah, although it's my least favorite Ari Aster movie so far, and although the film might be a little too strange for some, I personally really enjoyed this. At number 14, I have Bottoms. I had quite a bit of fun with this movie. John Hughes meets early 2000s comedy films, meets early 2010s YouTube skits, meets LGBTQ+. Okay, it's not the best analogy, but it's the best I could come up with. Rachel Sennett, Iowa Debris, and Ruby Cruz all give amazing performances in this movie. The comedy is hilarious and the story is a fun parody of Fight Club. Sure, not every joke lands and I wasn't huge on the soundtrack. However, it's still the funniest movie of the year in my opinion. Not my favorite comedy of the year, just the funniest. Also, the ending was absolutely hysterical. This movie is shamelessly silly and unapologetically gay. It's a really fun movie, and if it sounds interesting to you, check it out. At number 13, I have Past Lives. This is probably one of the most human movies of the year, if that makes sense. The performances are all fantastic, the characters are all likable, and the relationships between them are endearing. The cinematography and the score are beautiful. It's very easy to tell that this story is very personal for the director, and that's always a treat to see. The dialogue is very well written and has some funny levity sprinkled in. Also, that ending was just marvelous. It's very clear that this movie's biggest strength is its relatability. Although I personally didn't relate to it, I'm really happy that many people were able to truly connect with this movie, and that's the beauty of art. Overall, this is a very heartfelt yet sad movie. At number 12, I have Anatomy of a Fall. This is a courtroom drama, which is a subgenre that always sounds boring, but the films usually never are. The performances are all fantastic. Sandra Hüller is incredible as the main character. Milo Machado Grenier gives one of the best child performances of this entire decade so far. The romance between Sandra and Samuel is brutally honest. The screenplay is very smart, and the way information is revealed left me constantly guessing. The dialogue is very well written, and the courtroom scenes are especially engaging. The editing and the use of music were also very effective. And of course, Snoop. Need I say more? Highly recommend watching if you haven't already. At number 11, I have Dream Scenario. This is the film adaptation of the Have You Seen This Man in Your Dreams internet thing from a while ago. Not really, that was a joke. Nicolas Cage gives a fantastic performance as the awkward main character. The cinematography is gorgeous, the editing gives this movie a nice flow. The soundtrack is both elegant and anxiety-inducing. The concept of this movie is a very interesting one, and it's explored really well. But of course, my favorite part of this movie is the absurdist and surreal comedy. It's very funny and delightfully weird. Many people are comparing this film to Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, and Beau is Afraid, and I'd say those are all fairly accurate comparisons. Although I do prefer Being John Malkovich and Adaptation to this movie, I do prefer this over Beau is Afraid. It's an amazing and weird movie that I would recommend watching. At number 10, I have Blackberry. This is a biopic about the rise and fall of the Blackberry company, and it's pretty fascinating. It's a very nerdy movie, but hey, there's nothing wrong with that. Out of the other recent company biopics, this is easily my favorite from the ones I've seen, because the film doesn't feel like a commercial.
Introducing new Fruitomic Punch Gushers with a taste that's gonna drive you fruity. It's very, very different. and totally appealing. It's new.
Jay Baruchel is hysterical as Doug, Glenn Howerton is very entertaining as Jim Balsillie, and it was cool to see Sung-Hwan Cho, also known as Prosy D, in this movie, even if it was only for a couple minutes. The comedy is hilarious, and the electronic score fits the narrative very well. This movie is just amazing. At number 9, I have May December. Although this isn't a horror movie, it's a horror movie. It deconstructs tabloid culture in a harrowing and thought-provoking way. Natalie Portman, Charles Melton, and Julianne Moore all give fantastic performances. The script is brilliant, and I especially love the naturalistic dialogue. The cinematography is pretty, the music is haunting, and the production design is comforting. This movie manages to be funny, heartbreaking, uncomfortable, and kinda disturbing all at the same time. Also, that ending was a perfect cherry on top. This is an amazing melodrama that I would recommend watching. At number 8, I have Oppenheimer. I already talked about this movie in my Christopher Nolan ranking video, so if you want to hear my additional thoughts, go watch that. Although it's not my favorite movie of the year, it's impossible to deny the impact this movie had. The fact that a 3-hour drama about a man's inner turmoil with his own creation was one of the highest grossing movies of the year was just so refreshing for me. Also, even though it wasn't my favorite movie of the year, I'm kinda glad that it's won Best Picture at the Oscars. There was something that just felt right about that, you know? I would recommend this movie, but chances are you've seen it already, so... At number 7, I have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I imagine most of you have probably seen this movie as well, so I don't have to explain much about what it is. The animation is beautiful, colorful, and stylish. The character designs are imaginative, and I love the different animation styles utilized. The soundtrack is groovy and fits the narrative very well. The action scenes are creative, and the story is great as well. My two personal favorite characters in this movie that weren't in the original were Spot and Spider-Punk. Spot is such a cool villain, and Spider-Punk is just hilarious. Although this film isn't as good as the original, it's still amazing, though it's not my favorite animated film of the year. I'll talk about that one later. At number 6, I have Asteroid City. I already talked about this movie in my Wes Anderson ranking, so if you want to hear my additional thoughts, go watch that. I know some people might roll their eyes seeing me place this film so high, but I can't help what I love, damn it. I'm a big fan of Wes Anderson's style of filmmaking, and this film did not disappoint. It's a very funny movie, and it's a great love letter to 1950s science fiction.
What astounding technical developments are being made to protect mankind? Robot Monster brings you an actual preview of the devastating forces of our future. Unsuspected revelations of incredible horrors that will terrify you with their brutal reality.
There is no escape from me. Very well. I will recalculate. Your death will be indescribable.
However, it's also one of Wes Anderson's most reflective and honest movies. It's strange, it's whimsical, and it's really heartfelt. It's a fantastic movie that I would highly recommend. At number 5, I have Killers of the Flower Moon. I already talked about this movie in my Martin Scorsese ranking, so if you want to hear my additional thoughts, go watch that. This is a tragic and very eye-opening film that takes a look at a horrific time in American history. Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro give amazing performances. Lily Gladstone's performance is one of my favorites of the entire year. It also has one of my favorite endings of the year. Yeah, since I just recently talked about this movie, I don't really have much else to add. Just watch it if you haven't already. At number 4, I have The Boy and the Heron. This is the last Studio Ghibli movie directed by Hayao Miyazaki. Maybe. The animation is breathtaking, colorful, and magical. The characters are extremely memorable and endearing. This movie also has a really great sense of humor. Joe Hisashi's score is beautiful, and he once again proves why he's one of my favorite film composers of all time. And of course, in classic Miyazaki fashion, the world of this movie is so whimsical and imaginative. This is the most reflective movie in Hayao Miyazaki's career, coming to terms with his age and asking himself, what's now? I adore this film, and I would highly recommend watching it. Oh yeah, since I did a Studio Ghibli ranking a while back, I should probably use this as an update. I'd put Boy and the Heron at number 6. So above Kiki's Delivery Service, but below Princess Mononoke. There you go. At number 3, I have The Holdovers. This is a very beautiful little movie and maybe my second favorite Christmas movie behind It's a Wonderful Life. Paul Giamatti gives an incredible performance as the teacher. Dominic Sessa gives an outstanding first-time performance as Angus. The bond that forms between the teacher and Angus is so sincere. Also, Divine Joy Randolph definitely deserved the Best Supporting Actress award at this year's Oscars. I adore the 70s aesthetic and it makes the movie feel very nostalgic. The cinematography is gorgeous and the soundtrack is beautifully melancholic. The script is brilliant with many great subtle details that make this movie endlessly rewatchable. The comedy is hilarious and the emotional moments are powerful. The thing I find truly beautiful about this movie is that it's also a pretty unconventional Christmas movie. I mean, yeah, it's a rated R film, but there's more to it than that. Many Christmas movies focus on the importance of family as the central theme, but this movie doesn't. This is a movie about the importance of human connection, the acceptance of other people's flaws, and the way kindness can combat loneliness. This movie is less heartwarming and more bittersweet, but that ends up being this movie's greatest strength. It's the cinematic equivalent of a warm hug on a cold, snowy day. I'm definitely going to be recommending this gem to people next holiday season. At number 2, I have The Zone of Interest. This is one of the most unique depictions of tragedy I've ever seen on film. The acting performances are all fantastic, the cinematography is gorgeous and colorful, but of course there's the sound design. Call it recency bias, but this is among some of the best and most purposeful sound design I've ever heard in a film. Now, when I say this is a unique depiction of tragedy, most of that artistry comes from the directing and the narrative in which the story is told. Jonathan Glazer makes many experimental and rule-breaking directorial decisions throughout this movie, especially with the editing, the infrared nighttime scenes, and the imminently slow pace. This movie is also unique in how it doesn't focus its attention on those who were victims of the Holocaust. It focuses on a Nazi family living life right outside one of the camps. But the family isn't portrayed as stereotypically evil, they're portrayed as a normal family. However, it's that normalcy that makes this family all the more disgusting and despicable. Watching this family going about their days without a care in the world, knowing what's happening just a few feet away, is truly gut-wrenching. Also, that ending just... wow. This movie is incredible and I would highly recommend watching it if you haven't already. At number 1, I have Poor Things. Emma Stone gives an incredible and insane performance in this movie. Willem Dafoe gives a fantastic performance in this movie. This might be my favorite Mark Ruffalo performance of all time. The absurdist comedy is hilarious. The cinematography is beautiful and has some brilliant uses of wide-angle lenses. The music is so strange yet so excellent. The production design is so stylized and colorful. But of course, there's the script. The story of this movie is so messed up, but it's still manages to have this nice storybook feel to it. The nuanced and thought-provoking feminist messages in this movie are very well executed. It's a movie that touches on loss of innocence and sexuality in a bizarre, disturbing, and often uncomfortable way. This is easily the most unique and surreal movie of 2023. It's a masterpiece that I would highly recommend watching if you haven't already. Alright, those were my favorites of 2023. I'm not going to do a least favorite movies from 2023 list, because although it can be entertaining to listen to someone rant about poorly made movies, I have a lot more fun talking about movies that I like. It's more fun to share the films that had a personal and emotional impact on me rather than the ones that didn't. I would definitely recommend checking some of these films out if you're interested. Subscribe or something like that. Bye bye.